Hi, everybody. This is Lori, and I am the founder and CEO of Inclusivity, and we are all about justice and kindness and sustainable fashion. And this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS. And today we are really fortunate to have on the podcast two of the artists that are contributing to our Artists Who Share auction. And we're raising money for coronavirus recovery and also recovery after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. So our guests today are Lily Matteson and Arden Lapen. And they work together on art projects and are each contributing to our auction. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So I always like to start the interview by saying, by just asking, can you kind of tell me how your journey to being an artist began? When did you first know you were a creator, and how did that kind of progress for you?
Sure. So visual art is more of a hobby for me. Something I've just done like as a creative outlet on the side of other things. But I think as far as artistry begins in my life, it would be with dance, which is my primary study, I guess. I just graduated last year with a BFA degree in dance, so I've really dedicated most of my life to that as an art form. So as far as like creation outside of the dance world and choreography, I've really just made it as like a service to myself and like a hobby and just something to like keep me happy on the side. But it hasn't really been like my visual art hasn't really been my like driving force. It's more been through dance and movement creation.
Well, can you tell us how the dance began and how you got into that? Because that's an art form. We'd love to hear that.
Okay, yeah. Well, my mom was actually a professional dancer. She started dancing at age 9 and went on to be a professional and was dancing through when I was a child. So I was always around her while she was teaching and all these things. So I just kind of grew up at the dance studio that she worked at. And then she put me in classes when I was little, but I was really shy and like didn't take well to it. So I sort of came to it on my own terms when I was in like 6th grade. And it actually really helped me with like social emotional learning during like a time of like puberty and like going through changes. So dance was a really great part of my life. In middle school I just kept going with ballet through graduating high school. And then once I went to Western Michigan University, I was able to explore more like jazz and modern and all these different forms in college that I was passionate about and like learned about choreographing. So it really like college is where I think I like took off with realizing like how passionate I was about like dance as a realm of like interest, not just like one thing, like not just performing, but also like studying it and understanding how it affects like our community and how it like can be a service to others.
And what are you doing with dance now? What?
So before coronavirus kind of came in and took over like everything, I was dancing at a conservatory in Chicago called Common Conservatory. It was a new program this year, so it was sort of experimental, but basically it was a place where like artists who are out of school want to like continue their training and get connections and like kind of get familiar with like the Chicago dance scene. So it was a really great place for me to be sort of like post-college graduation. So yeah, I was doing that really rigorously and also working at a high school in their dance program after hours. So it was sort of like during the school hours, I would be doing my own dance thing. And then afterwards I would drive over to their like after school program and help facilitate like more of the artistic direction and like management kind of their own program. So yeah, I was very busy up until like coronavirus kind of came and shut down both like the high school and the program I was in. But that's what I've been doing this past few months since like this school year, basically, since I'm not in school anymore.
And when you do the art the visual arts more for yourself? What's the medium that you use most of the time?
Um, I really like doodling just with like a nice thick marker or like a pencil, but um, I've been really into watercolors lately, which is something that we've used together for some human up stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not like married to one
Yeah.
method or anything. It's just more whatever works in the moment.
And how about you, Lily? What's sort of been your art journey?
So from my earliest memories, I remember loving drawing and doodling and painting. Um, and so growing up, that's something that my parents would always really encourage. And they would always, like, it became a huge part of my identity. My parents would always encourage it. They would always, I don't know the word for it. They were just so supportive, and they loved the fact that I love to draw. So that was super encouraging for me. Um, and so from my earliest memories, I always loved drawing. I loved art class. It was always my favorite. It was something that it felt good to be something that I succeeded in. And then when I got to high school, that's when I got really serious about it. I was able to take AP art, and then my teacher was super encouraging of us going to art school and pursuing art in college, which is something I never even knew was like, I never even really considered as an option
Sure.
before that teacher. I never even crossed my mind, but this teacher was super encouraging and wanted us to feel that we can do this in college. It can be our careers.
Mhm.
So that was super, super encouraging. And my whole senior year of high school was really dedicated to my artwork and building a portfolio, which then landed me a scholarship at Minneapolis College for Art and Design. And I spent a year there doing their foundations program, which was super awesome. I got to learn how to work with wood. I got to weld. I got to paint. I got to work with oils for the first time. So that time at MCAT I really cherish, but it didn't last. I didn't stay past my freshman year because of a couple different reasons. But that didn't stop me from pursuing art. So now I have an art minor at UW Whitewater. And I'm working towards hopefully being an art therapist. So yeah, it's just always been a part of me.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I had parents that supported pursuing it and pursuing a creative career in the arts. So yeah, that's the gist.
So I'm glad that you had that year of experience, because I interviewed a 91-year-old artist who's part of the auction, Nisha Worley, and she said her biggest advice for artists was try all sorts of mediums, because creation is creation. And she said she feels like you never really know what you're going to love, and you fall upon something that you would never have considered. And once you do it, you think, oh, this is something for me. So I'm glad you had that experience. So as you were growing up, what else were you passionate about? What were the other things that really kind of pulled you in?
Yeah, so another thing that I'm really passionate about is music. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a very musical household. My dad is a musician. My twin sister is a musician, as you know. Sister,
Emily Matteson.
yes,
Great, great acoustic. I mean, not acoustic, drums.
yes, percussion, yeah.
Percussion, thank you.
Yes, she can play any instrument she touches. She's amazing. But yeah, so that was something that I was super passionate about too, because of my dad and because of my sister. And that's still something that's super important to me that I love. So
Do you
yeah,
perform, or do you just enjoy being around music?
I would both, but I haven't performed a lot. It's something I've done a couple times that was super fun, but it's not something I pursue very often.
Okay.
But our household, there's always music playing. There are instruments everywhere. We love to play. My sister and I love to play with our dad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Very cool. How about you, Arden? Besides, well, for you, besides dance and drawing, what else are you passionate about?
I think that when I found dance and like middle school, it was like such a click for me that it was really all consuming. Like I loved it, and like I still do, but it was very much like my one track mindset for a long time. So in like high school and everything, I was really just focused on dance, and it was very also like time consuming. Like I went basically every day after school, which I wanted to, like I wanted to do all of that. But I think once I got to college, I realized how passionate I was about like just being like, well, so I took up a gender and women's studies minor in college, and like my very first course, like the 1000 level of that class, like was just like the most eye-opening experience that I've had in my like education. So it really brought my attention to like feminism and just how can like social justice tie in with dance, and how can those things relate or even not relate, just exist side by side. So I think that that would be my next like first thought of something that really interests me and really like makes me passionate and want to like speak about and participate in.
I love that. And I think dance and I mean any kind of that kind of visual arts I think can really that movement can really speak and can help share a message and change things. So I think that's really cool that you're making that connection. So what kind of dance right now are you most interested in doing?
I'm pretty interested in choreographing right now. I sort of, well, I've actually always been interested in choreography, but I didn't really have the opportunity to try it out on other people really until college. So there are a few major projects I had in college that sort of like took over the course of a few months to produce and really made me be thoughtful about like what choices I'm making and like why. And I had to defend my work to my professors and just like be really thoughtful about everything. So now that I'm out of school and don't necessarily have like assignments to turn in and like standards to meet, it's more about like self-motivating and like producing an idea and then thinking about like what my professors would say about it, which has really stuck with me. So I did choreograph a bit on the conservatory dancers that I was dancing with this year. Obviously, I would have liked to do more since we got sort of cut off early without knowing that we wouldn't be coming back. So yeah, like choreography is something I really want to grow in. So to do that, I've recently, my friend and I have actually been on Zoom with each other. Sort of, she also has a mutual interest in choreography, and we were in the same BFA class, and we just have admired each other's work. So we decided to make like a solo on each other through Zoom. So it's a trial and error thing, but yeah, just like things like that. Obviously the process has slowed down with what's going on, but it's still like on my mind. Like I want to get back to choreography and that sort of thing.
Very cool. Lily, what do you sort of see as your inspiration? So if you sit down to do a piece, do you have usually an idea of what you're doing in mind? Do you just start working? What's your process? And then what are the things that really sort of move you as far as being an artist?
Yeah, so for a while as a student, as an artist, you kind of get in the rut of just like fulfilling assignments. And so for a while, that's all I was doing, which was, it was fun. Like I loved it and I had fun doing it. But it kind of becomes, oh, I just have a deadline to meet. I just have this project to finish. So for a while, that's kind of the rut I've been stuck in, which I am grateful for because, for example, I was in ceramics this past semester at Whitewater. That was the first time I got to like sculpt with clay. I got to use glazes. And so doing that process and learning about them and having these specific projects to make was super helpful to me as an artist, just learning a new medium and learning new processes for creating and using processes that I use drawing with a pen that I can use then on a ceramic.
Yeah.
being able to paint with like glaze on this piece of clay instead of like on a piece of paper. So that has really helped me grow. Same with, so I got to take a metals class, and so I learned how to solder, I learned how to cut metal, I learned the way metal behaves when it's heated up. So for me as an artist, that's been a big part of my process, is all these different mediums and kind of navigating them and learning how it works. And then that's kind of up to me moving forward to use these skills that I learned to in my own work. And that's something I want to dedicate more time to, is just doing it for me and for fun with my own ideas. Because again, as a student, you're kind of stuck just doing what you're told, but at the same time learning a lot, and it's up to me to use all that moving forward. So that's my plan.
I think that sounds like a wonderful plan. So the two of you work together right now. So tell us about what you're doing, and yeah, sort of tell us about what you're doing, what you do as two artists and business people working together.
Okay, so we started our group Human Up last June. So it was during Pride Month, and I live in Glencoe, Illinois, and they were offering a sidewalk sale. So I was thinking it would be nice to incorporate more LGBT just like awareness to the town in general, because it sort of doesn't necessarily like outwardly acknowledge pride or anything. So it's not that people aren't accepting there, it's just not really like as I don't know, as talked about. So when the opportunity to partake in the sidewalk sale came up, I was like, how great would it be to have a stand that's just sort of like in your face, like you have to walk by it and like at least acknowledge us and like see the work we're doing. So that made me think like, Lily's so creative and artistic, and how about we collaborate and make something that's like serves the LGBT plus community and like is fun and lighthearted. Like, so that settled us on making buttons and t-shirts. So we're both wearing like the type of t-shirts that were like from the very beginning, like very basic, but just had like fun messages on them that were like positive and kind and everything. So that's how it started, especially because the sidewalk sale happened to fall at the end of June, like on the day of the parade in Chicago. So we felt like it was like perfect match. And then from there, we just had so much fun with it, and it was pretty successful from the beginning. Like a lot of people were interested, so we just have continued in like as much as we can do, considering that Lily is like a full-time student during the school year, and like we weren't living in the same state, but we sort of just made it work and have been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what do you like about it? What feels good about the work?
Well, what feels good about it is that, so basically we wanted to make like affordable handmade LGBTQ plus merchandise, because a lot of the time you can just buy it from like a Target or Walmart, and their mission isn't necessarily to support the community. Or so we wanted to make a safe space where we're making handmade goods ourselves at affordable prices to support the community and just to voice support and to be a safe space for that. And that's something we're super proud of and excited about. And now that we're in the same state again, we've been able to work at it a lot more together, which is super exciting. Because for a while we were kind of just stagnant. We weren't really able to grow just simply because of school and work. But now it's super exciting because we're working on like new stuff. So yeah.
Who
designs? Do you both design?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely collaborate. It's a very collaborative process. Like, we'll shoot like ideas at each other all the time, and then decide how we want that to happen, like where that should go, like what that should say, and like we're just now starting to try to expand our circle a little bit and reach out to other artists and like just get to know the community of people like online who are doing a similar thing to what we're doing. But yeah, everything basically started from wanting to provide people with like something fun to wear for Pride weekend without having to support like a big industry that doesn't actually really cater to the like community of LGBT plus people. They're just sort of exploiting like Pride as like a way to make profit.
Right. I think that's wonderful. And I love that you did this. I think your designs are terrific. So I think connecting with other artists, because working together and sort of promoting each other is a wonderful thing. And that's, as you know, sort of all that's part of what auction, the Artists for Change, or Artists Who Share auction is all about supporting artists and artists stepping forward and making a difference in the world. And so I'm glad you're here, and it's a perfect fit. So I'm really glad that you're here with us. Speaking of that then, and designing your own designs, what I know you're each doing a panel. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're creating, or what your process has been with that?
Yeah, so on our page, our Instagram page, you can see that we also do a lot of hand painted designs. And a big thing that people love is this, it's called Choose Kindness, and it has like florals and stuff. And so for me, I'm planning, my panel is gonna say something about kindness and some florals and stuff like that. Just because I wanted to make sure it had like a positive message on it, that people, because I think it's awesome that you're having artwork that people can wear, and the fact that we can have like a positive saying on it too, that someone will be able to wear and people will see it, is super cool. So that's how mine's the direction mine.
Like it?
Yeah. So recently I was sort of playing around with different ideas for the panel. So I made like small versions of like kind of just sketching out like what I'm thinking. And I ended up really liking a few of the options that I've sort of been messing around with. So I ended up, we had a whole day of like having fun scanning artwork and like printing it onto some cardstock, and we made our own postcards for a little bit that we were like, oh, this could be a fun way to like send a Pride message to someone during quarantine when you're not going to be celebrating in like a parade. So I think I'm going to probably choose one of those postcards and then just sort of make a bigger version of the design on it, now that I've sort of gotten a few ideas out, and I probably will like add some things and just whatever, but just make a bigger version of that.
That sounds wonderful. I think one of the really cool things about the auction is that we have such a big diversity of entries. And I think what I like about that is that I want something for everybody. I want people to be able to buy something if they want to. And so the goal is to make things affordable for a wide range of people. And so I'm happy to have you here, and I can't wait to see the designs. I think they're going to be beautiful. So what's next for the two of you? Like, what are your 5-year, if you're looking ahead 5 years, what would you like your 5 years from now? What would you like it to look like?
Ooh. Start. I guess I'm not big on planning ahead, honestly. Like I get overwhelmed with like thoughts like that. But through Human Up, I've been like really interested in continuing what we're doing and expanding it and making it less of like a crafty thing we do on the side and more of like an actual establishment. So it has made me really interested in like small businesses and like that sort of thing. So I could see myself like just working towards expanding what we're doing already, and like establishing connections and just trying to make ourselves like, you know, more of a business, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And while also keeping dance in my life is the goal. But yeah, again, like with everything that's been going on lately, especially, it's like you really can't plan and expect things to go a certain way. So yeah, I'm open to just like what happens, you know.
Well, and I think you're right. That's a good way to live, is that right now what you're doing is what you're doing. And who knows what things will look like in 6 months, let alone 5 years.
Right.
Valid point. How about you, Lily? Are you more of a planner or are you kind of the same way?
Um, I'm definitely not a planner, but my goal is to be graduated from college.
Mhm.
For me, my college journey has been really weird. I'm 22 and I'm still not graduated yet, which is totally fine. It's I it doesn't matter. Everyone has their own journey. But I'm hoping to be graduated. And then after that, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Maybe grad school, who knows? But as far as like our business, like Arden was saying, we really want to make it. We really want to dedicate time to it, and really work at it and fine tune things and like just kind of get it running more smoothly.
Yeah.
And we're learning a lot through the process. Um, yeah, we like Arden was saying, like this is something we really care about and we want to spend time on. So that's something we're going to be doing a lot of in the future. Is just working at this and continuing to collaborate. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, if you found someone you can collaborate with, that's lovely and amazing. So that's really fantastic. So, what piece of advice would each of you have for someone who's younger and sort of just starting to think about creating and being an artist? What advice would you have to somebody like who's just coming up?
Um, I think it's definitely just part of growing up to go through moments of like wanting to conform and then sort of wanting to do the opposite. Like it seems like in middle school, high school, it's like all you want is to just like fit in and just whatever. And then it seems like in college, everyone wants to be such an individual and like it really goes from like hot to cold really fast. So I think that if young artists are able to just maintain like a through line of like, okay, I know that this is what I like to do and like I'm willing to try new things, but also keeping my ideas as like a valid backbone throughout all of that is really important because especially young artists like are so creative and there's no reason to like stop what they're doing or change their initial like ideas. I think like it's important for people to run with their first ideas and see where they take them.
So it almost sounds like what you're saying is that be true to yourself and what your ideas are while being open to seeing other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And what would you say, Lily?
I would say, um, I would say as a young artist, you're going to hear a lot of people say that it's just a hobby or that's no career. Don't listen to those people because they're wrong.
I
Don't,
like that.
yeah, I had friends in high school who were so gifted, but their parents didn't support them going to art schools, things like that. I would say they are wrong. Don't listen to those people. You can make a career as an artist. You can inspire others. Stick to your guns. If you have a talent and you have a message to tell people, stick with it because your talent and your passion will carry you, and your hard work, it will carry you. I promise. You just can't give up. No matter what people say to you, just stick with it because it will pay off.
Very
Yeah.
nice. If you had to just define in a few words or a few sentences what is sort of at the core of you, so something that that drives you, that motivates you, that sustains you, what would you say that your sort of your core being is? What's the most important thing to you?
For me, I would say my family.
Mhm.
That's something I think about a lot. That's something that um, really motivates me in everything that I do. Because I am so lucky that I grew up in a house that supported me, that encouraged me. Um, and so for me, that's my number one drive for not giving up and still going no matter how hard it gets. Because I'm lucky enough to have parents that have helped me and allowed me to go to college and allowed me to pursue art. My sisters are two of my role models. Like I look up to them a lot.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, that's something super important, and it drives everything that I do. Um, I have a rough day, I just think about how lucky I am to be surrounded by my family and these people, and that I have my parents and my sisters and even my younger brother to look up to.
Yeah.
Like I look up to my younger brother too in a lot of ways. So that's something I never want to take for granted, and something that always is motivating me and driving me. So yeah.
Good.
I mean, I absolutely agree with that myself, but also just with the times of change that we're seeing, like, and just really in the past few years, how much uh, social justice has been like brought to light. Um, I find that to be like an incredible force of like why we need to be doing art. Like this is a time for art and um, expression also, and standing up for what you believe in, because there's some real like fights happening right now that are important for everyone in making our society like a better place. And I think art is like a wonderful way of executing that. So yeah, I'm very big on like participating in social justice, even if it is like more of like in the background doing like more subtle things, like maybe we'll like do a pop-up project. Like Lily and I just decided last minute to make some protest shirts where we're going to take the funds and like donate them. So like that's not the same as like being on the front lines for protesting, but we're going to be participating in our own way. And I think it's important for everyone to find their way to participate and be aware of what's going on, and um, just do their part. So that's definitely a driving force as well.
Now, I always like to ask people before we end. Well, first, I want to ask, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before I ask you my last question?
Well, one thing I did think of that I think you would find interesting and fun is that um, we just started a collaboration with a friend of ours who does, she actually started this business during the coronavirus quarantining period. So she's been like baking in her apartment, and she's like a really talented baker. And so she's been going out and like just personally delivering these like very authentic, like Italian desserts. They're awesome and really great. And so we decided to do a collaboration with her for the month of June, and probably beyond, since considering how hectic June is right now. We'll probably continue this throughout the summer, but we're going to do sort of a bundle with her where she'll put in like a dozen rainbow sprinkly cookies, and like we'll put in a pride shirt, and it sort of like goes with like the send a pride bundle to someone, since there's no parade or like no big celebration. Like we're still acknowledging pride, and I thought you would find that like fun, because like she is an artist in herself too, like expressing herself and doing her own thing, be creative and problem solving during this time. So
And are you sending those all over the country, or are you delivering them locally?
so she has only done local deliveries with her baked goods out of just like trying to maintain the quality. But since they're cookies, I think they're very like shippable. So we're not fully committed to like a huge expansion of like sending them, but we are definitely like, if there's interest elsewhere, more than willing to send it outside of our community. We want it to spread just like everywhere.
It's a great idea. And the really cool thing is, even as you said, continuing into the year for other things, but also next year for Pride, sort of thinking ahead of time and expanding it. It seems like something that even if there are marches, even if there are celebrations, a t-shirt and cookies, that sounds like a pretty awesome thing to get. So I think that's terrific. So the last question I always like to ask people is to just tell us a story from your life, and it can be any story, just something that kind of pops up for you when you think, okay, my life, I'm thinking about a story. Some people have told, somebody told a story about frying an egg on the sidewalk. Somebody else told a story about sort of a spiritual awakening. Someone told a story about going to the beach with their dad. So it can be sort of any story that just comes to mind when I say, tell me a story about your life.
Mhm. Well, I guess I could tell a recent thing that has happened in quarantine, which is our dad has been, his quarantine project has been decorating the basement.
Okay.
And so he has these big blueprints from work. He has like tons and tons of these big blueprints, and he would always think to himself, what could I make with these? Like, I have so many of these, I could do something with these. And so what he started to do is he has been cutting them up, creating these really cool shapes and like these spirals, and he's been, I wish I could show you guys a picture. He's been hanging them from the ceiling of the basement, and he's been hanging up like little reflective items, like he's been hanging up disco balls. Yeah. He hung up like little skeletons, and he's just kind of creating this really cool space down there. And he has like lights and a fog machine. Yeah, and it to me, it's like what's really cool about it is my dad is just so creative, and all he cares about is creating, even if it's something silly and weird like decorating the basement. The fact that he's spending this time on it and cares so much about it and is like working at it every day and is excited about it, to me that's just like super inspiring. And a way I look up to my dad is how he took like these big pieces of paper that he had so many of, and he was thinking of something creative to do with it. And I think that's just a really cool way to live your life, and something that kind of mindset could apply to so many situations in your life. And I don't know, that's just something I really admire about my dad. And he's one of my biggest role models. I look up to him a lot. So yeah, that's just kind of a silly thing that
Great
story really special that he's been doing. So yeah.
That's a really great story. So thank you. I guess creativity is just in your blood.
Yeah, our dad. Yeah, thanks to our dad. He's awesome.
He sounds awesome. Arden, how about you?
Well, I was going to say something else, but hearing Lily talk, that made me think about like my own dad is actually like an artist himself, and he's 65, but he started completely with no experience before doing pottery about 2 years ago, and
Wow.
he like really just dived like head first in, and he has like he creates art at a studio in Lake Forest, I think, and he will spend like hours there. Since he's retired now, it's like he treats it like it's his next job. Like he spends all day, almost every day there, and he just got really good really fast and has made a lot of like not only on the wheel but like some hand built like sculptures, and so we're all very impressed with like his, just like he's always been able to just pick things up and be like amazing at them. So then also during quarantine he couldn't go to the studio anymore, but he had so much, like our basement is full, completely packed, like every shelf is full of his work. So he's sort of revamped what he's already made and started using like really random like new forms of art to like kind of embellish his sculptures and stuff already. So like he has this huge pot that he ended up stacking like several other types of sculptures on top of, and it looks sort of like a tiki torch sort of thing, but he got straw and he like wove them together. He got a loom and like did this like bead weaving, and like it looks sort of, it's just like
Sounds
really
amazing.
great. It's a lot, yeah. And he has a bucket of like antlers in our basement that he uses for art. He's very avant-garde, and like so like our basement is also just full of like very random like things that have, like there's a box of like pine cones he's been collecting for like years, like just all these things put together and for like his art. And I sort of never saw all these random things come together until like this quarantine. He's like, okay, well, I kind of stuck with what I have. I can't go out to the studio and make new things, so I'm going to combine what I already have and like remake these things. So I have found that cool. And he actually showed Lily around the basement the other day, and like we just have so much stuff that he's gathered and now is finally using.
Love that. Can you send us some pictures?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'll send the one I was just describing because it probably sounds
Actually,
crazy.
I have one of his pots right here.
My husband's actually a ceramic artist.
Oh, really?
He has all hand building. In fact, he's going to have a work in the auction. He just the other day decided he did a painting for the auction. He decided he's also doing a vase to go with the painting. So
yeah, Lily just when she was over the other night, my dad
beautiful
this
and
he was describing like the way that he's like done his thing, and like he
very cool
goes for things like 110%. Like when he has a project, he just like does it completely.
So I would love to see a picture of his creation. Thank you both so much. This has been such a pleasure. You are delightful, and I'm so glad you're here for the auction, and I hope that we find lots of ways to work together for many years to come, because you're both terrific, and I think you're going to do amazing things. And
thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
And including us in this awesome project.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for allowing me to include you. All right, everybody, this is Lori. This is Inclusivi-TALKS. We had a lovely Arden, Lapen, and Lily Matteson with us today. Check out their work at the auction. Thank you.
If she's a mountain